asked questions that made me delve into areas I wasn't particularly sure about myself.
Obviously, I would set out the task for the 38 questions for people or listeners to actually start thinking about potentially where their weaknesses and their strengths are. And that was the 38 questions. Danny, welcome, and being my first participant on the 38 questions. We did speak a little bit earlier, and you said that surprisingly it was a bit of a struggle. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to probably share your thoughts. Maybe we need to tweak them a bit, or just get a feeling for how you found it.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, honoured to be the first guest. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, surprisingly, it was a struggle. I suppose it asked questions that made me delve into areas I wasn't particularly sure about myself. But it was very good. It extracted a way to highlight my strengths and weaknesses, areas potentially I didn't realise I needed to work on, areas I knew already, and it highlighted what I have worked on in the past, and it was almost a proof check that it's worked in some respects.
And that's good. I mean, we've worked together for on and off for quite a while, and just for transparency, obviously you're my nephew, so we've got a long relationship, and I would say you come across competent. You've been growing so well in years gone by, and it's been impressive to watch your growth, to see that you've still got vulnerabilities. It's kind of what I was saying in the podcast earlier, is the fact that actually you are your own worst person for evaluating how you are. Other people don't see you like that. And there's probably proof in the pudding. I'm looking at it from an outsider going, Dan has got it nailed. But internally, you're probably struggling with a few things and you need to work on stuff. And that's what I was trying to bring to the forefront, is by asking certain questions, potentially you can start analysing yourself and seeing where your shortfalls are. I've done it myself, and the reason why it was good to get you on board is because, not saying I'm at the end of the journey, but I've been probably a lot further along, and maybe my starting point was a lot lower. As I said in that first podcast, I really struggled. I had a breakdown and a heart attack. I mean, that's quite severe due to stress and me trying to potentially people please too many people. So yeah, it's good to see that it's difficult to answer the questions, and it gives a bit of thought to it. But yeah, I mean, the fact you've come out of it with actually a bit more knowledge is good.
I think we speak about, obviously, like you say, transparency and things like that, but there's so much to be transparent to yourself, and that's the bit you probably don't realise. Well, I didn't realise how, like, that I potentially wasn't. But it's not trying to, like, let's be honest, challenges, to be challenged is good.
Yeah.
To see the weaknesses is not saying completely avoid them, because actually the challenges bring on new things. They open a new door. I remember a year or 2 years ago when you said to me, "Oh, it's good to see you challenged," when I was going through, I can't remember what it was, but it was something going on site or something like that, and it was like, oh, it's good to see you have to go into second gear a little bit and actually delve into your mind and figure it out.
Well, I remember the incident,
Yeah,
and we won't dive into too much detail on it, but you were doing really well on that specific job.
yeah,
And almost not saying getting complacent, but it was easy for you,
Yeah.
and you kind of, it was quite nice to see that you had a challenge again because,
Mm.
it didn't go well, something went wrong, and I kind of made sure that you felt it as well,
Mm.
and didn't shepherd you away from the pain potentially, and there's like, you got to face the music. You made a mistake, sit in it, feel it, and don't let it
Yeah.
happen again. And your reaction from that was brilliant again, because you went off and you thought about your mistake, you curious as why the mistake happened, and you made sure that mistake wouldn't happen again.
Yeah. Well, I sort of, yeah, and that is almost that situation was almost a metaphor to these questions. It highlighted weakness.
Yep.
I saw the weakness and went into overdrive to make sure it didn't happen again because I wanted to learn from it. I wanted to be better. I didn't want it to happen again. Like I say, I think it's good to make mistakes. I think we learn from them, but I don't want to make it again.
No,
You want to be better.
no, no, that's it. I mean, I had a big thing about being put onto the ropes, and as I said in the first podcast, and about my history with work, I was sink or swim, and I'd go onto certain building sites and I'd be attacked because they smelt naivety
Mm.
and because my previous bosses had oversold me. I went in there all fresh and naive, and they were like, "Ah, great, fresh meat. Let's have him." And they were ruthless to me and had me up against the ropes, and I was getting pounded and pounded and pounded. And to be fair, I didn't know a lot of the answers, and I knew my mistake was going underprepared to their meetings, and I thought, it hurt, and this is where you can't overly mollycoddle managers below you.
Yeah.
They need to feel a bit of that pain, because otherwise they're going to make the mistakes again and again. You only truly learn by a mistake if it hurts.
Yeah.
And that is that, you know, the pain that I went through has helped me become where I am now,
Mm.
And I'll reiterate again, I'm far from being perfect, but I've just been on such a journey with it all. And the lowest point, people were probably not even going to touch how low my points got, but how high they are
Mm.
now. I think I can talk to people quite authentically about
Mm.
challenges of management.
Yeah. No, it's good, and I think I'd be quite interested to hear other people's responses to the 38 questions, because obviously every single person, where it's split into the categories, the one I struggled with the most was the one speaking about the strengths,
Yeah.
and speaking then about yourself more. That's the one I found the hardest, but other people might find other sections harder, and there might be people in different forms of management and things like that in different industries, and it might reflect a little bit in those questions.
But why? I mean, the question would be: is why did the strength ones? Why did you struggle with that? Is that because you don't rate yourself as a manager, so you find it hard to say, I'm actually quite good at
Well,
this,
no, I
or
believe I am good at my job, because I don't think I wouldn't be where I am if I wasn't.
true?
And I try to read those things, um, those signals and signs. You said earlier, I think you hit the nail on the head in saying that I probably don't see myself how other people see me. And I think that might have an element to do with it. I'm just stronger at looking outside the box. I'm quite pragmatic, so
Mm,
and practical with things, and don't always read too much into stuff.
no, no. Yeah. I mean, I think you're very good at not getting emotional about jobs. If things go wrong, you don't generally keep a cool, and that's a very difficult thing to do. And that's where a lot of people, and I'm planning to do a podcast on this element of how we react to things, and actually understanding what the triggers might be, and look at it as a gift, because someone has given you a trigger. That means something you might need to work on, because you shouldn't be getting angry if something doesn't go your way at work, or at home, and it's evaluating yourself and understanding yourself. What I'd like to do, because obviously I want other people to pick up these 38 questions and give them a go. What I didn't say on the podcast, but we have spoken about this before, is basically what the idea is that there's a prompt that comes with the 38 questions. And what the idea is that you put that prompt into ChatGPT or whatever, and just say, look, I've completed 38 questions regarding my management style, and then put the answers and the questions into ChatGPT, cut and paste it, whatever needs to happen, and then it will then analyze how you are as a person, how you responded, and it will then spit out your weaknesses and strengths, what style of manager you should be, and then just interrogate it and understand it. And I mean, I briefly read through some of yours, and it was, I mean, if you want to summarize what yours had come back with, Dan.
Yeah. So, oh no, technical issues.
Operator error, I think you mean.
Yeah, operator error. Someone may have pressed reboot now instead of pause. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you why that's rebooting. I'll explain a little bit about the 38 questions and what, as you know, but I'll explain to everybody else, is basically I've managed to split them into 4 parts. The first part is about understanding your energy. Now, this may sound a bit woo-woo, but what it means is that there might be situations where you get physically drained. So one of the questions is, what situations leave you mentally exhausted? Now, I put confrontation and intense meetings can leave me exhausted hours afterwards, because it's just draining. I'm heightened, I'm on it, it's bang, bang, bang. And what I can't do, because I'm aware of this now, is I can't have several meetings straight after each other, because come to the second meeting, I'm going to be absolutely spent. So the other couple of ones, there's what part of your job creates most anxiety. And now for me, I struggle really with I did struggle with one-to-ones with people. And also I really struggle with big social events to do with work. I feel a lot of pressure onto that one. I've improved and I've got better, but that does cause me anxiety. And again, being authentic, that's just the way I'm built, and it's something that I've always got to deal with. So it does create stress.
Yeah.
Some really good questions in that first segment. Now, what tasks do you constantly procrastinate about? And I think that's a great question. And my response was, it used to be difficult jobs, but I've learned the biggest issues usually aren't the biggest problems, and they won't disappear. So I've learned that if I'm procrastinating about something, it's a big problem and I need to hit it. And that's my learning. That's my weakness, Always hit the big guy first. Because if you just put it to the back of your head and ignore it and think it will go away, the little bugger will not go away, and it will be a constant, and it keeps rearing up his ugly head. I said in that first podcast about the server room that I had the meltdown with, and had to get my stepdad or granddad Terry, to you, had to get him to come and help me with the project. And that was because I was putting off this difficult problem, putting it off, and it was building, until eventually I popped.
Yeah. My response to that question was I had to Google the word because I didn't know what it meant. But times for me, it was back supervisor times and things like that, and it would always be the challenge of multiple problems building up, and they would and creating a bigger problem. And that's what I would procrastinate over, is the fact that when something becomes too big, it seems like a too big of a hurdle to jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
massively.
I learned to deal with it just with the archaeologist method, and it's just, you got to dig away, chip away at the fossil. Eventually you'll get the prized fossil, but you just got to, progress is progress.
Nice. And you look at it with builds, I've done that 96 flats or whatever it is. If you looked at that building as a whole, you'd be like, Jesus, where am I going to start? But if you look at each individual flat, build that one, get to the next one, get to the next one. Next thing you know, you've 50 flats down. But yeah, looking at things as a whole can be very daunting.
Yeah.
The next part was identifying natural strengths, which again, great 10 questions. The first one, what do people regularly ask you to help with? And that's a great indicator to actually understand. Well, actually, in fact, I'm always getting asked about, mine's always about systems and things like that, because that's what I'm naturally good at. But this should spit out actual fact. I ever think, why is everyone always asking me about maybe connections or how to get around that person? And maybe you've got a high EQ, like emotional intelligence, maybe. Did you find anything out of that second part you want to talk about, Dan?
Just that this was the most difficult part for me, really.
Oh, really?
It was, yeah. This was the most difficult part. I think I used comedy quite a lot. So my first answer to the question was everything. I'm God. But then, yeah, obviously joking. I'm not God, for those that didn't know. But it's problem solving for me, really. I think a lot of people contact me with problem solving. I don't feel like I'm doing anything out of the ordinary. I just have an ability to look outside the box and apply logic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Just simplify things, and that's all it is. But that section as a whole, yeah, that was where I really had to think.
And it's good, and it's just time to reflect. If you can't reflect on things, how are you going to improve? And this is again what these questions in these sections are meant to be giving you. It's just time to reflect on actually your ability and where is your strengths. Again, like I said in the previous podcast, don't strive to be perfect at everything. That's crazy. You're not going to be perfect at everything. And I found that as at the beginning, I was trying to people please everybody and trying to get everything perfect and everything like that. I wish I just took a breath. I really wish I just took a breath and actually just thought, what am I naturally good at? And just put the emphasis on that. Still work on your weaknesses, because you need to be a bit of an all-rounder, but you could be fantastic at that element or this element.
There was actually a question that you said something, and I actually had the same response. And I do believe it was the question about which is actually in the next section, self-awareness. So
go on, carry on.
It was, do you need nope, it's not that. Are you trying to impress people?
Great question, isn't it?
Was the question. And no, I don't think I do, but I learned early on that you can't please everybody. And that's what you've just said. You can't please everybody. And I think that's a massive, if people don't realise that, make that be one of your first lessons. Because you can't, you got a meeting, there's 4 of you in there, so you're speaking to 3 people, and what you do to please one of them won't please the other 2.
No.
So stop trying to just do what you do. Don't try and impress everyone, because you can't do it.
No, and I probably where I failed in my early career is that I was trying to impress everybody, and what I didn't do, and this was my big lesson, is I didn't build relationships. what I was trying to do, and I didn't have fun either. You know, I literally was just work, graft, head down, do the job, get this right, please that person, da 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 da. And actually, I thought, you know, time to reflect. I was like, I haven't actually built any relationships. I haven't got any friends in work because I've got no one to turn. I just thought, let my work do the talking. And I think that stems from my stepdad, Terry, and the way that he was always just graft away for it. Graft will sort you out. Actual fact, I don't think it does. I actually think that, yeah, work hard, but work wisely and in the right places. But build friendships and build relationships, because they're the things that are going to get you through bad times. You know, your hard graft, yeah, you do need to graft hard. But I say, looking back on my early career, I felt that that was probably one of the things that I should have worked on more, would be actually building relationships with people.
Yeah, I'd stand by that. I mean, I've only been employed for the last few years. Up until that point, it was like 15, 16 years of self-employment. So if you didn't build relationships, you know, you don't stay in work.
Yeah.
You know, connections was everything. You know, you still need to be good at your job. You can't just do the relationship bit.
Yeah.
You know, you still need to be good at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. So we touched on a little bit on the self-awareness questions. Like, you know, there's a really great one in there. Do you overthink criticism? You know, I now try to determine what is the criticism authentic. So again, it's just getting a little bit long in the tooth. I can turn around and go, you know, someone's criticizing me, checking whether that was a genuine criticism or that someone's got their own little ego journey and they're just trying to put me down. You know, I had a lot of this when moving through as a manager. I haven't spoken about this yet, but you know, I have had people trying to suppress and push me down because they could see my drive and my enthusiasm and what I wanted and where it was going, and they were like, "Oh, hold a minute, that's not what I want," and they'd be pushing me down, you know, and the criticisms weren't fair because I was just trying to do the right thing. I was being authentic. So with the criticism, I will self-check or go and speak to someone and just say, you know, is that fair? Did I really mess that meeting up? Did I come across arrogant? Was I rude? Do you think I was rude? They said I was rude, you know, and I think that's important. Don't always take people's criticisms for face value or take them for face value. Just double check on things.
I mean, I used to get criticised so much from ageism. You know, being a young supervisor all the time. You're too young to you know you get sidecast and put aside, and it's a real character test. You know, but it's taught me not to take it personally from quite an early on stage. And you know, the reality is it's an area to improve. And if you disagree, prove them wrong.
Yeah, and that's another angle to look at as well. Is that, you know, you have to try and get you've been given a position of authority, and you're going to get a lot of people when you were younger just thinking, who are you? You know, what do you know? I had it, you've had it, and that's another little problem to see whether that's a bit of an Achilles heel. And just, you know, it's an art of how to get something out of someone if they refuse to listen. We've got another podcast on communication skills, and again, that element of, I say manipulation is it sounds like a bit of a grotesque word. No one likes the sound of it, but you need to get an end result out of someone that's refusing to, first off, listen to you. So you do need to work on that art of how to get the best out of someone, even if they don't want to do it. So again, that's another topic for another day.
Funnily enough, the age sorry, carry on.
Go on, no, you're right.
I was just going to say, funnily enough, on the age thing, obviously, young getting like almost an adverse sort of reaction has changed now, isn't it? Because it's now the older you are, you get judged for being stuck in your ways.
Yeah,
When the days of respect your elders have sort of gone out the window.
yeah,
So
there's a sweet spot.
yeah, so the point, it's got a place for everybody. I think these
Yeah.
sort of questions.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the final part is part 4, the honest mirror questions. So again, brilliant. I mean, like, one of the first questions there is, what are you pretending to be good at? You know, deep down, I pretend really well, but actually being organized is something that I pretend to be good at. And I come across, for work, I dress very smart. I look the part, and I really have to force myself to be organized, to be on top of it. I create action sheets, all this kind of stuff just to make sure that I'm on top of it, because that is something I really have to work, because that's not part of my natural tendencies, and it's really something that is hard work for me. But again, these 38 questions are going to spit out something about maybe you've never even thought about. I'll pick one more. If you stopped pretending, what would you
Don't ask that one.
change? What if you stopped? This is the last question as well.
Yeah.
So if you stopped pretending, what would you change tomorrow?
So I didn't answer it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I found it that I was stuck on it for ages. Because I didn't know what to say. It links to that first question, doesn't it? What are you pretending to be good at? I didn't want to write my job because that might be an awkward situation. But to some degree it is. What I do has a lot of dealing with people, and people annoy me. So I find, so potentially I don't think I actively pretend to be good at talking to people. I just think I am good at talking to people when the time comes. But then I suppose, yeah, if you were to take that into account, what would you change tomorrow? Probably people annoy me less. Maybe.
Nice.
That's all I've got, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not a bad one at all. So are you saying that pretending to like people?
No, because I don't feel like you have to like everybody that you come into contact with. And I don't feel like you should expect to be liked by every person you come into contact with.
Strong.
I just mean that, it's exhausting dealing with people sometimes. Like you say about the back-to-back meetings and things like that, we meet all sorts of personalities of people. And, dealing with those different personalities is draining.
Yeah. And all of them are different. And you have to treat everyone different.
Yeah, and some people might say, yeah, but you're good at that. So you're pretending to be good at it if you're saying you don't like doing it? Well, no. I wouldn't actually say I'm pretending to do that. But I suppose it is, technically. If I don't want to do it, but I have to do it.
It's a fair shout, mate. It is a fair shout. No, that's great. And I appreciate you coming on. We've talked about this for some time, and the fact that I said that I'm going to do a podcast about
Mm.
management. I think from day dot you was like, yeah, go on, that's wicked. Let's do it. And obviously you were the first person I wanted to bring on, because we've shared a lot of the journey together.
Mm.
And obviously, yeah, you'll be coming on as regular as we can make it, because I feel that you're very open-minded to taking new things on board. So you're a very good test subject.
Guinea pig, yeah.
A guinea pig.
I will give you my ChatGPT verdict though before my computer rebooted itself.
Yeah, send that over.
Someone pushed the button.
Yeah.
But effectively, it said that I should be in the role I'm in, which I suppose is a very good positive.
That is a positive. Yeah, send it over. And yeah, and I will say to people that are listening, and hopefully everyone's stayed on board. It's worth doing the 38 questions. We will be probably re-looking at some of them on the next one. And once you've done the questions, like I said, there'll be a prompt in there as well. Put it back into ChatGPT, and it will then reanalyze all your information you've given it, and it should give you a good insight into your weaknesses and strengths. And the reason for this element is that I almost want you guys to open up a bit about where your development needs to be. And with the forthcoming podcast, if there's anything that you need to be, or you need to work on, or it's your strength element that you need to make better, we're going to have a podcast on communications. We're going to have podcasts on confrontations, stress management, all these kind of elements. And hopefully now, after this and after you've analysed your information, you've got a foundations of learning, and where potentially we can then move forward together, and hopefully we can improve you guys as best as you can, and I'm improving with it as well. And I say, this is the Always Learning, Better Management and Better Lives podcast. Thanks for your help, Dan. See you later, mate. Cheers, buddy.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Bye.